The Thing is a rebroadcast of a program that has previously aired as a part of WGNU's St. Louis Urban Forum. Our phone lines are currently closed. Please consult www.wgnu920am.com for our complete schedule of programs. Make sure to tune in, call in, and be a part of the radio station that is working to improve our great city. We thank you for tuning in to WGNU's St. Louis Urban Forum on 920 AM.
It is the purpose of WGNU's St. Louis Urban Forum to include a wide variety of hosts and guests that will discuss important topics of concern from all different angles and with different views. However, the views and opinions expressed on the programs aired on WGNU are those of the hosts, participants, and callers, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the staff, management, or ownership of WGNU 920 AM. We invite you to participate in the discussion here at the St. Louis Urban Forum as we talk together to make St. Louis a better city for all of us.
After all this time, just seemed to me, girl, to be changing your mind.
It's 2 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock. Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Business Talk with Heart. I'm Bob Coleman, your host. We're here each and every Sunday bringing you the best in talk radio. I don't want to start in with that song, man. Leaving Me Can't Be. You know, this is the 4th of July weekend, and we're just going to jump right into this thing. I am so excited about today's show. I decided to keep the topic. I'm not going to say light because we always have very exciting people in the studio with me every Sunday. But this week I just decided to keep it home, keep it on point, keep it talking about radio. So it's my pleasure. Let's jump right into this thing. It's my pleasure, first of all, to I have live in the studio with me a friend of mine. We've been friends for over 30 years. A young man who I met years and years ago. I was living in Chicago, and I remember I was at a place called City Lights, and a City Lights disco in Chicago. My sister and I were there, and this young man walked in, and he was working at a radio station in Chicago, WBMX Radio. And I was there, and I was like, oh, man, you know, that's the guy who's working at the radio station, and I wanted to introduce myself to him. And our friendship was born. Never did we know it would lead into a 30-year friendship, more like brothers. But life is something. But he's here in the studio with me right now, and so I wanted to welcome to the air with me Mr. Roy Michael Roberson. Hello, sir.
Bob Coleman, how you doing, sir?
How are you, man?
Man, can you believe we've known each other since you were 20 years old?
Incredible, man. The show could be just about our adventures and things that we've done through the years, but let's bring everybody in. I'm not going to, because it is also, I'm just so excited today, man. I've got so many exciting people. One of my heroes, I got two heroes, as a matter of fact, one male and one female. And, Roy, you started out for me, opened a lot of doors for me in radio, gave me the opportunity to do a lot of things, meet a lot of people, and go a lot of places, and that, via on your, with you being on the air at WBMX Radio. So we were able to do that. Also, there was a man who I remember the day that he signed on the air in Chicago. Barry Mayo was the program director, and he said, I'd like to introduce to Chicago, the Chicago market, brand new talent, brand new radio personality. And I was sitting in my car in front of the house listening to the radio station when they introduced this young man to the radio station in Chicago. He and Barry were talking about how he said, man, I was walking through the airport today, and he was saying it was something in reference to his luggage bag. Something happened to his luggage bag at the airport. I don't forget anything. But I remember that, and him and Barry Mayo were talking about that. So I'd like to welcome to the call as well. He should be, bring him up right now via the conference line, Mr. Doc Jones. Hello, sir.
Hey, Bob, what's going on, buddy? First of all, thank you for the invite. Roy Michael Robeson. Oh, my God.
I got a story.
Copper Box, too.
Hey, you know what
man, you had some great parties in Chicago, boy.
You know what you
Good
said?
to hear you, man.
You said to me once, you said, I don't know what you've got, but you got something to make these people listen to the radio. You remember that day you called me and said, I don't know what you got, but you've got it.
You got that thing, man. It was just that thing and that entertaining thing that you do, and you've done so well. So it's a pleasure to be with you, Bob, and Roy. Man, what other kind of surprises do you have for folks today?
Now we she can't wait. Now you know.
Irene Mojica.
Irene Mojica.
I said Ola.
That means hello in Latin.
Now let me say about Irene. Irene and I never worked together at any of the radio stations, but my thing about Irene, everybody that I knew or knows me would know it. I would always say anybody that can start a stop set in English and end in Spanish and still post was my hero.
That's right. Irene.
I'm telling you, those Flintstone vitamins, that Bam Bam was something else. Two of them, you can do it too.
Irene, I've got a question for you. This is Roy. Remember when I used to wear those T-shirts under my suit?
What do you mean? What do you mean used to?
I'll tell you why I did it. First of all,
the only difference now is that you're color coordinated. That's I would imagine. You always have to be coordinated.
You know, it was humid in Chicago, and I didn't want to sweat on my silk shirts. You understand?
Oh man, you were so. I was going to say you were so vain, but I have a feeling that some things don't change.
Hey, Bob,
Yeah.
Roy, can I have 1 second?
Go ahead. Who is this?
This is Doc.
Oh, Doc. Okay.
Irene,
Lorenzo.
how you been, baby?
But it was a hit in D.C. Larry Doc Jones. I got one word for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Singbad. Thursdays.
Nice
Be
club,
there.
downtown Chicago. Don't miss it. Mr. T was the doorman, and we had a party, didn't we, Mo?
Who was the doorman?
Oh,
Mr.
man.
T was the doorman. That's right. That's right.
Mr. T was the doorman. Thursday night, GCI night. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was
You know, and that was back in the days when nobody would dance with Mr. T. So imagine Mr. T back in the day with his baby blue tuxedo with the velvet cummerbund.
Yes, Lord.
We got one more person to bring in who's on the line waiting. Mr. Al Greer from Chicago. Al, are you there?
Baby.
What up, Al?
Hey, what's happening?
Mr.
Man, you all brought back memories. I remember seeing Mr. T. I was going to pay my cable bill at the time. It was Chicago Cable. And in walks this guy with this mohawk, a cut-off T-shirt, and a pair of hammer pants, and I think he had on either some gym shoes or something. I'm like, who is this fool?
Wait, we can tell how old school you are, Al, because you said gym shoes. Okay?
Right, I said gym shoes instead of tennis shoes, or,
Okay.
jumpers as we call them.
Wow.
But I'm like, and it was Mr. T. He was paying his cable bill.
Wow, that's incredible.
Good time.
You know, there's so much.
I never will forget that.
You know, there's so much legend here on this radio today. I mean, Doc Jones, Irene Mojica, Al Greer, Roy Michael Robeson. I mean, my gosh, how can I contain myself? I mean, I just feel so honored to be in you guys' company because, and I mean that sincerely.
Well,
you guys
set up the minibar.
I mean, you guys are truly giants. You know, you guys are truly giants in the field. This is going to be a hard show to get through because all these personalities, I know it. But, you know, we're here to talk about radio. You know, radio then versus radio now. You know, and man, we could probably stay on this subject for a month. But, you know, let's jump right into this thing and say, you know, here's where I am. Just let's take this weekend. Here I am in St. Louis, and one of the voids that I'm seeing right away is yesterday I was out and about in the community in and around the city, and I don't see any radio station presence. Here it is, the 4th of July weekend. You know, no remotes, no personalities, nothing's happening. You can't find out what's going on in the city. What's going on with radio, guys? What's happening?
Well, some of that, Bob, if I can jump first, this is Doc. There's been a detachment from management to the community. And although they serve, or they're licensed to serve, there's been a real detachment from the things we used to do. if they can't put a dollar tag on it. Now, we would go out and do a lot of free stuff in the community, but now if you can't sell that, then the stations tend to shy away with it. At least that's been our situation here in the Houston market.
Absolutely.
And again, you have we had hearts. Irene and I would do things. We hit the streets, and it was almost a prerequisite.
And sometimes we came home.
But, Mayo believed in street presence. But then again, you had one of the sweetest radio wars going on between GCI and BMX back in the day. So that presence had to be had. But where does that take us all the way back to, Bob? It isn't there because ownership. Clear Channel owns both. So why would I shoot my brother to have a piece in the corner when I could just let V do what V does now and let GCI do what they do, and it's all in the same roof? So it's fragmented. There's a detachment. They don't have to be out. But if you had someone who just thought of the community like we did or do in management positions, just like they're detached, they could be attached to. Because back in the day when I worked St. Louis, and Bob, you remember this, Ron Atkins had us out in the street. 4th of July, we were out either with flags or whatever parade was in town, just for the presence, just to get the call letters out, be a part of the people, be a part of the community. And my take is that, there's detachment. I don't think the guys really care. I don't know that they have to care. And Roy, am I too far out on that, or am I close?
Closest.
Yes,
closest.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
Well,
this is Al.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
This is Al. You're absolutely right. We have gotten so far away from community involvement, it's ridiculous, because now it's all about making a buck. Back in the day, like you said, if you got fired from one radio station, you can go work at another one. Well, the people that fired you own that station across the street as well.
Yes, sir.
And they basically have the same feelings about community involvement, which is little or nothing. I mean, every year we were in the Bud Billiken Parade. We were at the Taste of Chicago. We had a presence in different communities, different neighborhoods. Now it's like, well, unless they're paying any money for us to be out there, there's no use parking the station van anywhere, because it's not making us any money. Plus, I guess it's too expensive to gas up the truck these days.
Wow.
To Al, let me step in here, is that the economy, most of all, if there was a trend in this, the economy really helped just put that last nail in the coffin. I was asked by the Salvation Army to be their spokesperson in Chicago. So that means that out of everybody on the television stations, out of everybody of any other radio station, out of any media person, they wanted me to be their chairperson, their spokesperson for that particular year's drive. I went to my PD. I said, "This is wonderful." And my PD said to me, "What's the value?"
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Does that speak volumes? We're talking
Absolutely.
about the Salvation Army.
Wow.
And I said, "Wait a minute. You mean to tell me that you won't even do a PSA or a liner card on this?" No, we can't afford it.
Wow.
Okay, now we're not talking about shoes for Joe's 2 kids, as being a charity. We're talking about the Salvation Army, which as far as I'm concerned, would have been able to give our station some good crossover, cross promotion value there. They're a worldwide organization, so it would have done our station some good, especially me, with visibility, etc. And I got hit with what's the value, and I've been in the business a long time, but I just felt so dejected because it was like I was getting them free publicity because they were going to shoot a video and they were going to have it on their website and they were going to do press releases and the whole thing. any free publicity is good publicity. What would it cost for a liner card?
Absolutely.
And until this day, am I alone in this? Those of you on the air, if you had been me, how would you have felt?
No, absolutely. I have a liken to story here in St. Louis. I was working at Magic, as a matter of fact, and this is the beginning of corporate. This is the very beginning of when corporate started rearing their ugly head, for lack of a better term. And I remember Bobby Brown was in St. Louis doing a concert, and that's when Bobby Brown had first started crossing over. So you had a lot of the white stations playing his music as well. So what Bobby Brown's people decided to do was they decided not to let any one particular radio station banner Bobby Brown's concert. Well, so they did a total media lockout. Nobody was allowed backstage, no radio station personalities, no nothing. The day of the show, the program director, Chuck Atkins, came. I was at the studio and just hanging out, and Chuck came in. He said, "Bob Coleman," he said, "I got a challenge for you." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Go to the arena and get on stage to represent the radio station at the show tonight." He said, "Can you up for the challenge?" I said, "Sure." Now, I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I'm like, "Sure." He said, "I'm going to sweeten the cake for you. Here's a Magic van. Here's some T-shirts. Let's see if you can get on stage." I went to the arena not knowing what I was going to do. Went inside the arena, was not allowed backstage. So I'm walking around the front of the arena, politicking, kissing babies and shaking hands like we used to do back in the day. And Steve Gerard, you guys know Steve Gerard. Steve Gerard spotted me in the audience. He called me to the stage and he said, "Bob," he said, "I need you to do me a favor." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Earlier today, Bobby Brown was down at Gus Fashions and Gus gave him some free clothing. I need you to go on stage to thank Gus Fashion for Bobby Brown." So I went on stage. He handed me the mic. I went on stage, and the first thing out of my mouth was, "Magic 108's in the house," in front of thousands of people. Do you know what I got for that? Monday morning, the general manager called me in her office and wrote me up because the salespeople complained and said Bob Coleman was on the stage at the arena and nobody paid for advertising. He was advertising Gus Fashions.
Bob, Irene hit it, man. This is an era of greed that is incredible. And Al, I haven't had the pleasure to work with you, sir, but I've certainly followed your career, and thank you for friending me on Facebook as well. But
oh, no problem.
There is a
thank you for accepting.
Yes, sir. Irene, and you know as well as I do, there's a different breed of human being. It's almost like the human element has been removed from what we grew up in, called to serve.
Even some of us have become them, so to speak.
Yeah,
we won't mention
right.
any names. Yeah.
I got you. It's sad, Bob, but I am a person that continues to believe that there's still more good and there are different ways to skin a cat or get through a situation, and you yourself are now proof of that just by having this kind of a forum with these varied radio personalities who remember how to do it. See, that's the thing that you got to keep in mind. We still know how to do it. Where we can find a place to get it done may be just a little difficult, but I assure you, once we get in somewhere, we're going to bring it back, as I would say. My mom says everything is cyclical, and I think that the evildoers have had their turn, and the good guys are coming back around. But you're talking to 4 or 5 professionals who have weathered certain storms, but we still have a heart for the community. Irene mentioned the American Red Cross. Well, how about being turned down for doing something for St. Jude? Is that not ludicrous?
Ludicrous. Wow.
So, you know, you want to do something for a charity that feeds the homeless, and you do it at a high visibility spot. Let's say it's a grocery store in your community, but that grocery store doesn't spend any ad dollars on your station. So the general manager says, no, you can't go out there and raise money because they don't advertise on our air. Who cares about that? I'm trying to feed some homeless people.
Yeah.
It was a hit.
You know, Doc, if you excuse me 1 second for interjecting, but you made an excellent point, because that is what I said to my PD. I said, let me tell you something, and actually it was the Salvation Army.
Okay.
I said, you don't think there are any of our listeners that are in need that have been helped by the Salvation Army? You're acting as if our listeners, our community, has never been touched by the Salvation Army.
Right.
So you made an excellent point. Please continue.
Well, my story is that I won't ever lose hope, Bob, and because people say, okay, so We hear you crying about what's wrong. How do you fix it? Well, what's the out? Well, the outs are internet radio is a possibility. It's getting some traction. Another out are your community outlets or your universities. And whatever grassroots organization you can become a part of, we're the media savvy folks, so I've knocked on my local television stations. I've knocked on all the affiliates. I knock on anybody's door to continue my cause. Just because I'm not employed by a particular station doesn't mean I don't care about the things I signed up for. You know, I've got 6 or 7 clients now that only because of the community work I did, they reached back to get me, and I'm sure Irene has the same story, and Al can share. I mean, it just doesn't stop because we can't get it done that way, Bob.
Right.
But to get back to the first thing about what's happened or what's going on, there's been a detachment, an earnest detachment of we don't really care about them, we just want their money.
Right.
And the sad part about that's a real statement.
Let me ask this.
Go ahead.
Let me ask this: is national radio, you know, the Basedens, the Joyner, are those shows working for you guys? Are they effective?
We started that tone.
Yeah. I was.
Yeah.
What do you think they got it from?
Yeah. I just wrapped up with Yolanda. Did that for 3.5 years, and I can tell you, in some markets, it can be effective. And I've never worked with Tom's show. I've never gone out with Basin or Steve Harvey, for that matter. But I can tell you, with Yolanda, it was a little different because there was a ministry that went out because she's an ordained minister, and we were doing gospel music. It was a little different, but in certain markets, I can tell you, after monitoring the Steve Harvey show, the way Tony Richards handles that morning show, that's some of the best radio I've heard on a syndicated show in some time, because they work in local elements. Tony's always out in the street. Tony's always somewhere doing something. They have those elements, and if they're pre-recorded, they sound live, and they sound good, Bob. I'll give them that.
Yeah, but see, go ahead.
So whether it's effective for the market, whether they're getting the same kind of bang out of their buck that we did, it's hard to say, but Irene said it best. We were a part of a unique golden age of radio, especially for Chicago, between 79 and 90-something. It was an incredible run, and each market had its development. But well, you see what birthed out of Chicago. You had Tom and Doug and Steve, all local radio hosts before they went national.
Right.
So if my friends will continue to thread their goodwill, I mean, not to keep blowing on Steve, but his national foundation is doing wonderful things with his boys and the stuff he does out in the community. Tom's done well with the community colleges, black universities. So, you know, if done well, I can see it, you know, progressing and being an asset. It still keeps a lot of us out of work, and that's the sad part.
Well, and that's my thing. My thing is the national shows can't be everywhere. I mean, there are some things going on here in St. Louis right now today that people want to hear about. You know, nothing national. It might be just Pookie around the corner having a barbecue sale. Sure. You know, and Pookie wants me to come on the radio and say, "Hey guys, guess what? I met a great guy yesterday. His name is Pookie, and he gave me some yada yada yada." You know, that's radio. You know, but Tom and Basin, they can't. You know, I was in Nashville not long ago, and I forgot myself when I hit the city limits. The first thing I did, forgetting myself, the first thing I did was I reached for the radio, and I said, "Let me turn on the urban station and find out what's going on in Nashville." And when I got to the station, what did I hear? The Michael Basin show. That didn't help me. You know, I need to know what's going on in Nashville right now today, Friday afternoon. Where can I go? You know, where can I hang out if that's my thing? You know, where can I go get me something to eat in the hood if that's my thing? And and we used to address those things, you know, locally.
Well, you know, Irene mentioned a club we had, what was it, Thursday night, Irene? For Dingbat?
Yeah, Dingbat.
In Chicago. So my thing is, if you have if you have a pan to bake a cake, Bob, and you only have this much slice to put this much mix in, I'm going to fault your program director in St. Louis, and I'm going to fault the program director in Nashville for not taking advantage of whatever slot they have to pump up their local. Mm-hmm. And if they don't have the strength to break a few eggs, then they really shouldn't be in that position. But right. You're talking to somebody that's done this for 38 years and has programmed several radio stations, and I've broken some eggs, and it got me a couple of black eyes, but it also got us excellent ratings. It also got us local press, and it also made sense that we were ingrained in the community.
Absolutely.
So if I got a national show, Bob, and I only have 4 minutes of local time, what am I going to do? I'm going to pound it, man.
Absolutely.
I'm going to make it sound as big as... I'm going to make it sound so big that Baisden will have to talk about it on his show. But you don't have PDs who think big anymore. They just kind of...
Go with the flow.
You know,
well, they don't know.
Check.
They don't know.
I think they know, Bob, because a lot of us are still students of the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we came up in it because we respected the business, but then we respected the talent. I mean... We had such a family, which is really an overused term in this generation, but the truth of it was that you couldn't make this phone call to any of us and get us all in the same air right now if it weren't for the sense of family. I'm doing this because I love you, Bob. I respect your talent. You could call me on the moon, I would have called you back. I don't know that you have that today because there's so much self-centered greed on the I. Not me, not we. It's all I.
Absolutely.
But these are smart kids, man. I think if you give them a blueprint, they can run with it. But I don't think they have.
Well, the other thing too, Larry, is that things have become very corporate now.
Yeah.
You've got layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers, and by the time you need something done to hit the moment on something that has happened locally in the community, by the time you hit the ladder and it gets approved by attorneys, by legal, by this, by that, the moment's over. Back in the day, things have become so over-researched, so tested, so audience strategically done, that it's just taken away that good old-fashioned gut feeling. And Larry and I, and all of us go back to the days in radio where you were a PD, man, you had a gut feeling. You didn't know if that song was going to be a hit. I mean, Barry Mayo called me, Irene, what do you think of this record? I said, man, some of that bus is going to be a hit. And then he said, Irene, play this song by Change. I said, man, this is dude Luther Vandross singing. I think he's going to do very well.
I agree
with you. You know that old school, that gut, that ear.
Right, absolutely.
And you've got a lot of programmers that, even though they're doing their job, they just don't have that gut. They just don't have that thing with what people want, that sense.
Hey, Irene, I remember when we all know Lee Michaels and James Alexander from the past. They used to call us in the programming office, and we would sit and remember Angie Bofield, I Try. We heard that song.
Yeah.
The first time we heard it, we said, Lee, that needs to be on the air. And we felt in our gut feeling that it would be a hit. So that's what we used to do. We used to come in the office and just sit around, grab some chairs, and listen to music for about 40 minutes.
Now, what record did they break on you on the air?
Oh, yeah. I was on the air. You remember the name Norma Jean? That was, what was the lady who had the dress, the famous movie star whose name was Norma Jean?
You are listening to a rebroadcast of a program that is previously aired as a part of WGNU's St. Louis Urban Forum. Our phone lines are currently closed. Please consult www.WGNU920am.com for our complete schedule of programs. Make sure to tune in, call in, and be a part of the radio station that is working to improve our great city. We thank you for tuning in to WGNU's St. Louis Urban Forum on 920 AM.
Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, okay.
There was an artist in 1978 called Norma Jean, and the song was called I Just Can't Wait Till Saturday. Well, anyway, because of the payola thing, James Alexander, this guy was about 6'4", about 2:50. I was on the air at WBMX, and James Alexander, we were playing songs from the turntable back then. Okay? James took the 12-inch that I had of Norma Jean and broke it across his knee, and he said to me, "Roy, I know you didn't get paid for playing this song." I thought I was fired.
But that's how I was. Remember, Larry? Remember, I used to bring home records. I used to bring records from home. My 45s, my
Yes,
Dusties,
ma'am. Sure did.
and all the guys on AM stations, because that's where the first urban stations started on the AM dial. If you recall, back in the days of GRT and JPC and VON. And so, they were playing their Dusties, and they panic every time. Richard Piggy May, rest in peace, told me that he would listen, and he would get mad because he'd hear me playing my personal Dusty record collection, like Elephant Walk, or He'll Be Back by the Players. Woo! I'm digging deep.
But see, you guys we're all DJs. We were DJs who were allowed to be on the radio. I started out in WLTH radio in Gary, Indiana. One of the most popular songs that I played on that radio station that was most requested was a song entitled, and this was an urban station, AM, WLTH radio, and one of my most popular requested songs was a song entitled "Get Your Tongue Out of My Mouth Because I'm Kissing You Goodbye." It was a country and western song, but it was the way I promoted it. It was the way I promoted it. I told my music director, I said, "There's a song out called Get Your Tongue Out of My Mouth Because I'm Kissing You Goodbye," and nobody believed it. So I would play that record every day. People would jam the request line. "Hey, Bob Coleman, play that song about getting your tongue out of my mouth." That was radio.
And here's another thing, Irene. Bob and I, we did an actual commercial. Remember the song Disco Nights by GQ? We produced that commercial in Bob's bedroom on the second floor of his home on the south side of Chicago, in his bedroom.
That played on BMX.
We double-tracked it, and we put it in the Nimbus commercial.
We got that first #1 book, and that became the Dynasty. When GCI began, it was that summer of 1981, I believe.
Yeah, I still have the newspaper article. I've still got the letter from Marv. I still have the Gannett.
Yeah. The general manager, our general manager came in there.
Letterhead,
Who was our general manager? James Alexander. Was it James? Not James Alexander.
Ernest James.
Ernest James.
That was
he came in while I was working on the weekend, and he said, "Irene," and you know how he was. For him to come in the studio while I'm there on the weekend, and he said, "Irene," he said, "I wanted to come here and thank you." I almost lost my hairpiece, back in the day. And so he said, that book, you had a lot to do with that as well. And, I was just a weekender, a part-timer, but, it meant so much because, a lot of part-timers are treated like an aside. And believe it or not, part-timers, the radio station never turns on. I don't care if you got one shift on a Sunday overnight. You treat that shift important, and let me tell you, you get strong weekends, and the rest will happen.
Absolutely.
But it meant so much. But I'm getting goosebumps.
Irene,
I just took my last week. I was cleaning out my wallet, and I just took my GCI card of gold out of my wallet last week.
Wow.
Archives.
This is Al. I got a story about that. About the card of gold. That's how I started my career at GCI. I was an intern at Columbia College, and it was my job to send out the card of gold to listeners. And that an open fan mail for Chili Childs.
Wow.
Yeah, I was an intern, and at the time, there was a guy that was on in the afternoon by the name of Marco Spoon. Remember Marco Spoon?
Yep. I've got his record. I got his.
I remember him. I worked with him. He was on afternoons on BMX. Yeah.
Well, I was Marco's intern.
Okay.
Wow.
So when I got through, mailing out the card of gold, I got a chance to sit in the studio adjacent to Marco. And one time he walked out of the studio, and I was just being a smart aleck, and I would answer the phone in his voice. And one lady got so upset with him, thinking it was him, that he got cussed out for no apparent reason because of me.
You gotta love it.
Wow.
I answered the phone. Yeah, GCI. Yeah, this your spoon. Yeah, hey baby, how you doing?
Well, would you believe if I told you the same thing happened to me when I imitated him?
What, the curse out
Hey,
part?
Bob.
Yes, sir.
Well, this is Doc again.
Yes, sir.
You know, Al, that's how I got to Chicago. Because
Really?
Marco had left to go to BMX
Right.
with Jim Maddox. So
Right.
Mayo calls me from, I was here in Houston. Mayo calls Houston, and I fly in to do afternoon drive. That's how all that started.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so the history is right there.
Wow.
Irene and I fell in love first sight.
Yeah.
Do you remember Aaron, who used to run Dingbats? The manager?
I remember.
Yes, Aaron, and then Miss Charles,
Yeah.
the DJ. Miss Charles took a special liking to Doc. I don't know why.
Because I was cute. What are you talking about? You don't know why.
You know, walking in there with your face all moisturized. You know,
Wow.
looking cute.
Wow. You know, we're going
And
to
his
take
hair
a
all moisturized.
we're going to
You
take
already know. You already know. You had to have your Chicago. You had to have your Chicago curl.
right.
Tight.
Yeah.
Listen up, guys.
Larry got Metro
Tight.
real quick.
Listen up, guys. We're going to take a real quick break. Got to pay some bills. We'll be right back. We're talking with radio legends, Roy Michael Robeson, Doc Jones, Irene Mojica, Al Greer, giants in the industry. You're listening to the Bob Coleman Show here on WGNU. It's called Business Talk with Heart. This week we're calling it Radio 101. We'll be right back with more.
Cookman Motors, located at 820 North Kings Highway in St. Louis, has been in business for 60 years with guaranteed customer satisfaction. 85% of our customers are third-generation repeat customers, and we do our own on-the-spot financing. You won't be pressured by pushy salespeople at Cookman. We let you take your time to ensure that you're happy with your choice of automobile. You can also check out our inventory online at www.cookmaninc.com. At Cookman Motors, our goal is to more than satisfy our customers. Our goal is to amaze them. Mention this ad and receive $100 worth of free gas with the purchase of your next automobile. Cookman Motors, 820 North Kings Highway since 1964. You'll meet our helpful, friendly sales staff the minute you hit the door. Open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We are Cookman Motors.
It's 4:38. You want to check out something real cool on YouTube? Check out The Bonita Show. You can check her out on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, type in The Bonita Show on the search engine, and a lot of her shows will come up. She's interviewing a lot of national celebrities, people like Antonio Fargas, Huggy Bear, Roland Bob Harris, you name it. It's The Bonita Show on YouTube. Check it out at your earliest convenience. Also, if you are looking for something really a cool place to live, you want to check out Gentry's Landing. They're located downtown, 400 North 4th Street. Give them a call at 314-231-5444. They're open 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, 9 till 7, Saturdays 10 till 5, and Sundays 12 noon till 5. It's Gentry's Landing. They have spacious studio apartments, one-bedroom convertibles, riverfront one-bedrooms, and large two-bedroom apartments as well. Give Pete a call today. The number, once again, is area code 314-231-5444. Let's take a look at the St. Louis area weather. As you know, this weather is being brought to you by the Muni. The Muni in Forest Park. Chance of showers, and it was pouring down right around 4 o'clock when I looked outside of the window there. So there is some rain happening in the St. Louis area. Today's high about 93 degrees. More showers in the forecast for tonight. Currently, it's about 84 degrees here in St. Louis. And once again, this weather is being brought to us by the Muni. The Muni in Forest Park. Let's jump right back into this thing. I've got radio legends on my show today. Doc Jones, Irene Mojica, Al Greer, Roy Michael Robeson. They are all here. Welcome back, guys.
Well, you better radio that thing. You better radio that weather, Bob.
You know what's funny? Hey, guys.
Go ahead, boy. Ain't nobody mad at you.
You know what he said? Something was funny. He said, with all this technology, he said, "I'm looking out the window." That was funny.
Looking out the window. Hey, who was that on that Cookman Motors commercial? Whose voice was that?
That sounded like Al
Yeah,
Greer.
that sounded like Greer.
That's A.G. Edwards.
But you know what? That goes right back into the line.
It definitely was not Richard Peggy.
Nyan.
But you know what? That goes right back to what we're talking about, because that's about the family and about the love. Because all I did was I called Al. I said, Al, I need you to do a commercial for me. And I was in Chicago. I stopped by his office. He did the commercial. There were no agents and corporate and, well, I got to talk to my producer. He just did it. And that's what it's all about.
And it sounded professional. Al, you did a good job on it, buddy.
Thank you. I had a lot of practice. Listening to you guys, because you all are much older than I am.
About 2 years older. It's all good. Hey, Al, and
did you say your mama on the radio or bleep that out?
It's going to happen, though,
Bleep
Al.
that out.
It will come to you.
fellow personalities, I got a question for you guys. What do you think about consultants, guys? A consultant is an expert who gives professional or technical advice to other professionals. To me, this is Roy. I was offended when we had consultants come to our stations, and you and I, the radio personalities, are the experts, but we have a man who knows nothing about radio come in and give us advice on how to play our music. How do you guys feel about that?
Al?
No one is a better consultant than the person who grows up in the city that they're doing radio in. I mean, no one can come in and tell you how to be a personality, what to say, or whatever, because it varies from I guess, city to city, from market to market. No one person can tell you what works in Chicago, what works in L.A., what works in St. Louis, and so on and so forth. I mean, if that were the case, that guy would be making millions and millions of dollars a year.
Here's my take on it, Roy.
Mm-hmm.
I think in some cases, an outside coach could be useful if you're doing a startup or if you're trying to remake or redo or if you're shifting demo. I don't think all of us know all of it. Any of us know all of it. But Al makes a great point about you being the expert growing up in your hometown. No one would ever know any more about Chicago than Irene Mojica. Nobody.
Exactly.
But there may come a time where you may need a little coaching. But having said that, I also know the politics behind consultants. And a lot of times they're brought in to give ownership justification to remove an error personality or to change a thing.
That's right.
Well, we brought in the consultant, and they say because of, as Irene mentioned earlier, over-researched. We've done the research, and this doesn't, this. Let me give you a research scenario, Bob. October 16th, 1987, Barry Mayo's group Partners Broadcasting buys out WBMX from Egmont Soundling. Shirley Clark, now Shirley Strawberry, and I were doing the morning show. We were brought into the office, and we were all fired.
Wow.
Based on one scenario, the consultant said anything associated with those call letters at WBMX, on-air personality, jingles, music, all were going to hamper the growth of this radio station. Now, Armando Rivera survived, and a few other people survived.
Wally Muhammad, yeah.
Wally Muhammad, you remember? So, but there were maybe your high-dollar personalities, and thank God for talent, because Shirley went back over to GCI. I went back and did marathon work forever under Sonny Taylor, till I left to go to New York. But for me, it was an excuse to get rid of or change, instead of just man it up and say, hey, you know what, we're going to make a change. We're going in a different direction. Here's what we're going to do. Pay you your severance and let you go back across the street. But that's, Al alluded to that earlier back in the day where you had a choice. When one conglomerate didn't own everything. You don't have that option now. You can't go down the hall and say, well, they just fired me at GCI. I want to go on V103. It doesn't work.
Wow.
So consultants,
go ahead.
in my point, consultants to a degree for maybe some retooling, changing, freshening up some things, and a different outside ear. But a consultant every day, what does your PD do?
Right.
That's
Yeah.
my point.
Wow.
Exactly.
Right. Irene,
So-
You know, like anything else, you know, there are goods and bads. There's good to having a consultant. The good I see in it, and Larry brought up some great points. But the other thing, too, is sometimes, and this happens even in life, sometimes you're so close to a situation because you're living in it that you don't have the objectivity. And it's always good to have a fresh pair of eyes. So, you know, consultants, you know, there's good and there are bad. It's a double-edged sword. And sometimes you don't know if a consultant is there and he says everything is working right, then, you know, why are you hiring him for? So sometimes consultants say things because they've got to look like they're earning their money. Am I wrong on this?
No, not at all.
No, not at all. And I think
Absolutely right.
I think what we're all saying is consultants are great. It's a tool, but it shouldn't be the ultimate tool. It's just one of the many tools in the toolbox. But the point Roy was making was they were given too much power.
Exactly.
You know, it's one thing to adjust. You know, we did consulting every day. Doc, you can remember, you know, even Doc Jones, you know, every day with Mike Stratford, we did air check sessions. You know, that was a part of being on the radio was your air check session. You know, that was consulting in a sense.
It was giving advice, exactly.
Right. But you have cats like Jerry Clifton, and I don't know if that name means anything to anyone, but he was a great salesman of Jerry Clifton. And Jerry Clifton's formulas and procedures were the best things since sliced bread. And if you don't have the Clifton system in your station, then you're never going to win. You're never going to be number one. And a lot of these cats, you know, they just have that ability to sell themselves, to get entrenched into a particular situation and to make money. But as I think we've all said, there is nothing wrong with someone coming to you and saying, hey, you know what, you really need to get that crap out of your nose because it's showing. You know, Irene, the dress is not short enough. Doc, go home, change clothes.
My dress is always short enough.
You know, it's what
it's still short enough.
As it should be. But, you know, Bob, if we ever get a chance to own one, would I have a consultant? Yes. Would I use them on a daily basis? No.
Absolutely.
Would we use to train? Possibly. But I want a PD that can put his hands in the dirt, touch people, get involved. And I know there's some kids out there that still have that desire. I believe in my heart that there's got to be that kind of energy, that kind of want to help get back to the community. You know, it's not going to end this way, Bob. It's just not. It's not over. It may be dark right now, but it's not over.
Roy, guys,
we're gonna show up.
Do you guys think that we'll ever get back to, say, an air personality playing his own style of music? I mean, as long as you stay within the guidelines, because I know everything is coming off the computer because of the payola thing that corporate has to know what commercial was aired and what song was played at a certain time of day or whatever. Do you think we'll ever really get back to being able to play what we, you know, what's within our personality as far as the format, as long as we stay within the guidelines?
Where every personality used to get it. Doc, you remember back in Magic, we would prep our show. You know, prior to going on the radio, you would prep your show. You know, but now it's just sitting in the studio. Irene and I were talking about this on yesterday. I don't want to, you know, I'm not jumping up and down to be on the air right now because I don't want to sit in the studio for 3 to 4 hours and stare at a computer screen playing the music. Right. That's not radio to me.
Well, I think if you have a program director, again, with enough strength, like a Barry Mayo did with us, we were in a system.
And Elroy Smith.
Elroy was another.
Let me tell you, Elroy Smith.
We were all in.
They let us be us.
But they let us be us.
Right.
Barry came in one day and took out all of his music systems, which were just 3x5 cards with red, green, yellow, blue dots on them.
I remember.
Remember that? He took out all of our law.
And we had the zeros. Those are transition records.
And he was like, I just want to see what you would do if this wasn't in here. I want to hear what you would program. Now,
Larry, you know what happened. You remember what happened, how we became mixologists.
Yeah, we did. I mean, we created great segues and great mixes, and your creativity, which is where I'm trying to go with this whole thing, was enhanced because you had someone who believed in your talent, but you were hired because of that talent. Roy, you know as well as I do, you wouldn't have gotten on the radio. Bob, all of us the same way. We wouldn't have gotten those jobs if we did not have the mental talent and the ear and the entertainment swag, on-stage personality. Love to shake hands, love to meet people, love to let you know that I work at the radio station ABCDE, and you need to listen to me between 3 and 7 o'clock because I'm behind the mic and I got the stuff you like. Come on.
We were campaign experts. We were campaign experts. All of us, when we were out there, it was like we were running for the presidency of the United States.
Yeah.
Because I used to shake hands, and when I met Irene, it was just like it was natural chemistry. Just I knew she had that magic. God gives certain people the it factor, and Irene had it. You had it. Al Greer's got it.
Yes, sir.
We just had it. And plus, we weren't jealous of each other. Now, Jocks, we were not jealous. I was happy to have met Irene and Doc because it was like they were my brothers and sisters.
Yeah, and that was a big part of radio, right? Professional.
We respected each other.
I was actually at the Burning Spear the night that Marco Spoon, he had just changed stations, and I was at the Burning Spear. Slave was in concert, and Marco Spoon brought Doc on stage. You remember that, Doc? It was a Burning Spear. Slave was in concert. Marco had changed stations, but Marco still brought and introduced Doc Jones in New Orleans. That was radio. It was competition, but it was friendly competition. We all got along because we knew eventually we were going to all work together anyway.
We had such a respect for each other's voice, each other's talent. What Irene could do still does. No one. But you go back to the Chili Childs, you go back to the Yvonne Daniels, you go back to Doug and that morning show. Nothing in recent history was as good as it was then. And I lean on Chicago because it was such an aha moment for me. It was an awakening of all kinds of intellectual, spiritual, physical things were going on. You were just engrossed in the community of radio because everybody was so good. You were like, who the hell's going to listen to me?
Right.
Everybody, every overnight cat was great. Who's going to listen to me?
Right.
It was an amazing era.
Bobby O.J.
And Larry, I really think that you and I have been really, really privileged because when we started at GCI, when Barry came in there, we were like 26 in the market, or what were we?
Wow.
We were 26, and I was 25 years old.
Wow.
Okay, we were, and I really feel for those in this business that have not had the experience to have really been probably in the worst bottom of radio stations and then be able to be a part of its iconic, because GCI became a dynasty, it became such a landmark in the industry all over the country, to be a part of that. I feel so blessed. And I was able to feel that with GCI, and I was able to feel that with V103. And it just speaks volumes of when you have a program director. Barry Mayo discovered me. Barry Mayo had the knowledge, had the genius to bring in Doc and let us do what we did. Elroy Smith, again, helped me to develop, to grow even more. And I haven't been on the radio in it's 2 years already. And Elroy Smith and I were having a conversation because we're so lucky, and Al too, all of us here, that we were able to work at stations that just let us do what we do. Mm-hmm. And a lot of other stations, it's like I've had other people call me, interested in hiring me, and I had one PD say, Irene, how do I know you're not going to get bored and leave? And I said, wow. I said, you know what, it was really nice meeting you. I got to go. And, we've all of us in this conversation have had just the privilege of just being able to be us on the air and win.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It was a wonderful time. And no doubt about it.
Speaking of Elroy Smith, Irene, Elroy was my program director in Dallas, Texas in 1989. They had a station competing with K104 in Dallas called 100.3 Jams. And Elroy is, to me, one of the greatest black program directors in the entire world. I'll just say that. And Lee Michaels, I've had the privilege of working with both Lee Michaels, who fired me before and rehired me. So, you know, Elroy and Lee Michaels, Barry Mayo offered me a job, but I missed the opportunity. I would have been working with you guys, but my mother, I had been out of town, and back then they didn't have cell phones in the early 70s. So I missed an opportunity to work at WGCI with you guys. And Barry Mayo, to even for them to even pursue me, somebody like Barry Mayo and Lee Michaels and Elroy Smith, I mean, I'm blessed. All I can say is I'm blessed to have known you guys and to have those guys as my bosses, and even Ernest L. James was the one who gave me my break in Chicago radio.
We worked, all of us on this phone call worked with it's like saying the Frank Sinatras,
exactly.
the Dean Martins. It's like saying there's a dynasty. It's like saying the Chicago Bears with Walter Payton.
Right.
We worked with just the Giants.
Right.
Dynasty, so to
right.
speak.
Absolutely. Well, guys, you know what? Looking at the old clock on the wall, unfortunately, we're running short on time. We're running out of time. But I just want to take the last couple of minutes to say again, to acknowledge the legend that is on this show today. You know, Doc Jones, legend in my book. You know, just when I got hired at Magic back in the day, that was like a dream come true to me. And this is very important to me to what I'm about to share with you guys, because I believe in giving people their flowers when they're still alive and can smell them. You know, so Doc, you mean the world to me, and you've always meant the world to me. Just to share the studio with you like I was able to do working in Magic 108 was like a dream come true to me and for me. And I appreciate your talent. And the night that you told me that my show was great, you'll never know what that meant to me. You know, when you came in the studio and said, Bobby, I never got a chance to listen to your show, but I finally did. And man, you're doing it. That meant the world to me. Irene Mojica, you know, a living legend again in Chicago. You know, I love the lady. I loved her voice. I loved the way she did her intros and outros and the sexiness that she had on the air.
And how she could post right to the end.
I mean, she's just a legend. You know, so again, Irene, for you to be on this show with me today, again, a giant. You know, we miss you guys being on the radio. You know, Al Greer, again, Chicago legend. He's worked with some of the best in Chicago, and he's still in Chicago doing his thing. So, guys, we appreciate you guys. We're here each and every Sunday doing what we do. It's called Business Talk with Heart. Thanks for listening.